Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Gita Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Gita Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthaya Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasthaya Bhajasri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Bhaktivedanta Bhajasri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasati Bhaktivedanta Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, 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 Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nitya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nitya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nitya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nitya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nitya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Hari Bol. Om Vishnu Jaya Krishna Krishna Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Bhagavad Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Good evening, friends. Let us welcome our guest speaker, our friend, Sir Siddheshvar Das. Haribol. Namaste, Siddheshvar Das.
Namaste, Haribo. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I loud enough? Am I too soft? Oh, I got 2 thumbs up over there. Okay. Thank you. Now, if everybody would be so kind as to please turn on your cameras so that I feel like I'm talking to people. That's a big help. If you can. And, well, first let's begin by offering my obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual masters. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine. Gaur Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate. Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya De Satarine. Vanchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripasinubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanevyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it very, very much. I don't know why you want to listen to an old man. There's so many other virtual gatherings out there. I'm very humbled, and I beg you forgive me for any weakness that I may have in trying to spread our spiritual master's love and teachings. Today, we're going to take a crack at the Universal Form, Chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's a very interesting chapter. I know I put in the invitation we're going to do Chapter 11 and 12, but after I got into Chapter 11, I mean, it's just so cosmic and so amazing, even though I figured, because Bhaktivedanta Swami says, it's not a very important aspect of Krishna, this universal form, but nevertheless, the descriptions and the reason for him bringing the universal form before Arjuna, and so many other things. It's the chapter itself is worthy of some examination, and not just to pass it off. Well, there's the universal form, thousands of heads, eating people, yada yada yada. But it really is something that is worth looking into. Again, those of you who can, please turn on your cameras. It'll help me a lot. Ellen, it's nice to see you. A lot of times I see you in these things, and you've only got a picture up there. I don't see you, so that's nice. Haribo. Haribo, Alan. So we got Alan and Ellen right next to each other here, so might be a little confusing. Thank you, William. So, in the last chapter, Arjuna, he's like totally like enthusiastic all of a sudden. At first, he's like, I don't want to fight. I don't want to do anything. I just want to go and sit in a cave and meditate and, figure out my pranayama and everything like that. And now, all of a sudden, he's like really enthusiastic after Krishna explains what this is all about and who he is and who's Krishna and what is their relationship. All these things were revealed in chapters 9 and 10. But still, Arjuna requests Krishna to reveal his all-pervading universal form that supports the universe. And thus, here in chapter 11, Krishna proves himself to be the Supreme Lord. That's an interesting statement, because the universal form, as we'll find out, is not even a spiritual form. It is a material form of God, which will be explained later on as we get into the chapter. Bhaktivedanta Swami says that this chapter reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. And he's even the cause of Mahavishnu. And from him, all the material universes emanate. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the source of all incarnations. That was completely explained in the previous chapter, in chapter 10. But now Krishna understands that Arjuna wants to see this universal form. Not for himself, not because he's just like a guy want to, like totally have his mind blown because, he like, wants to see the cosmos, but rather to convince others. He has no desire for confirmation of Krishna, of the reality of Krishna's Godhead. And Krishna also understands, excuse me, that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criteria so that in the future, when so many imposters are out there who pose themselves as incarnations of God, basically what Krishna and Arjuna are doing here is basically saying that, okay, if you're God, let me see your universal form. Okay? Let me see your cosmic, the beginning and the end and everything of everything, the thousands of mouths and all of these things. They can't do it. People, therefore, he says, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared then to show his universal form to confirm this claim to his followers or anybody. And he establishes the criteria in this chapter that anyone who claims to be God, therefore, must also be able to show their universal form. My dear Arjuna, O son of Partha, behold now my opulences, hundreds and thousands of varied divine forms, multicolored like the sea. O best of the Bharatas, see here the different manifestations of the Adityas, the Rudras, all the demigods. Behold the many things which no one has ever seen or heard before. But wait, hang on. You cannot see me with your present eyes. So, therefore, I give you divine eyes by which you can behold my mystic opulence. The pure devotee, Prabhupada says, Bhaktivedanta Swami says, does not like to see Krishna in any form except his two-handed form. A devotee must see his universal form by Krishna's grace, and not with the mind, but rather with his spiritual eyes given to him by Krishna. To see the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna is told not to change his mind, but his vision. The universal form of Krishna is not very important. That will become clearer in the verses that follow. Yet, because Arjuna wanted to see it, the Lord gives him the particular vision required to see that universal form. It's very interesting because you see so-called experts, college professors, and impersonalists that are really, really, really attracted to this universal form. They think this is it. This is, and it's not even them. It's like everybody. We all have this idea that God is this great universal phenomenon that is, causing everything and is the beginning and the end of everything, the cause of all causes, and this cosmic idea of Godhead is prominent throughout many spiritual paths, many religions, and among many peoples who have no scripture. they are filled with this idea of God being in this amazing cosmic form, and yet so people are naturally, people are naturally attracted to this idea, but they don't understand, they don't realize that Krishna is showing simply a small part of him. This is not like all of Krishna. This is not like all of God suddenly revealed. No. This is like a teensy-weensy little part that, okay, well, if you want to see that, then okay, here it is. I'll give you the right eyes to see it, and boom. Devotees who are correctly situated in a transcendental relationship with Krishna, Bhaktivedanta says, are attracted by loving features, not a godless display of opulence. This is the difference between an ordinary yogi or an ordinary empiricist and a devotee. Krishna then reveals to Arjuna his wondrous, effulgent, all-expansive form, and Arjuna sees all the soldiers on both sides of the battlefield dying within this form. Sanjaya, who is actually speaking Bhagavad Gita to Dhritarashtra, speaking what he sees by the grace of Vyasa, by the grace of Krishna, he has this vision to be able to see everything that's going on. He says, O king, speaking to Dhritarashtra, the supreme, the Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed then his universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes. It was all wondrous. The form was decorated with divine, dazzling ornaments and arrayed in many garbs. He was garlanded gloriously, and there were many scents smeared all over his body. All was magnificent, phenomenal, all expanding, unlimited. This was seen by Arjuna. If hundreds of thousands of suns rose up at once into the sky, use your imagination, you can see this amazing thing happening in front of Arjuna's eyes. If hundreds of thousands of suns rose up at once into the sky, they might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that magnificent form. Bhaktivedanta says, what Arjuna saw is indescribable. Yet Sanjaya is trying as best he can to give a mental picture of that great revelation to Dhritarashtra. Neither Sanjaya nor Dhritarashtra were actually present on the battlefield, but Sanjaya, by the grace of Vyasa and Krishna, could see whatever it was that was happening. Both Arjuna and Krishna are sitting in this chariot when Arjuna saw the universal form. There are millions of others on the battlefield. None of them could see what Krishna was displaying to Arjuna. None of them could see it, because Krishna gave this vision only to Arjuna. Arjuna could see in the body of Krishna many thousands of galaxies, stars, planets, and more. Arjuna could see all of this. Others could not. It is said that Arjuna was inspired by the relationship of wonder, and in that wonder, although he was by nature a very sober, calm, and quiet man, nonetheless, in that wonder, in that cosmic wonder, he became ecstatic. His hair stood up on end. he began to offer his obeisances unto the Supreme Lord with folded hands. Now, you should understand here that he wasn't actually afraid. Rather, he was affected by he was overwhelmed by the awesome wonders of the Supreme Lord. The immediate context here, Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami explains, is wonder. His natural loving friendship was overwhelmed by this amazing wonder, and therefore he reacted in this way. My dear Krishna, Arjuna says, I see assembled together your body, in your body, all the demigods, all the various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and many great sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, I see your universal body, many, many forms. I see the bellies, their mouths, their eyes, expanded without limit. There is no end. There is no beginning. There is no middle to all of this. You are the supreme objective. You are the best in all the universes. You are inexhaustible, and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of all religion, and you are the eternal personality of Godhead. Arjuna is totally overwhelmed by what he's experiencing. He says, you are the origin without beginning, without middle, and without end. You have numberless arms, and the sun and the moon are just simply among your great unlimited eyes. By your own radiance, you are heating this entire universe. All the demigods surrender and are entering into you. They are very much afraid, and with folded hands, they are singing your glories in the Vedic hymns. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of all the worlds, please, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance, seeing thus your blazing death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions, everywhere I look, I am completely bewildered. I see all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings and Bhima, Drona, and Karna, and all your soldiers are rushing into your mouths, their heads smashed by your fearful teeth. I see that some are being crushed between your teeth as well. This is what Arjuna experienced. I mean, it's not like he watched it on TV. It's like it was happening right there. It was happening. Krishna said, time I am. I am the destroyer of the worlds. I have come to engage all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides shall be slain. He then requests that Arjuna, knowing in advance of the inevitable death of all these warriors, become his instrument. He says, get up, Arjuna, and prepare to fight. After conquering your enemies, you will enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasian, meaning great warrior, can be an instrument of mine in this fight. Bhaktivedanta Swami says every great plan is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he wants to give credit to his devotees who carry out his plan according to his desire. Life should therefore move in such a way that everyone acts in Krishna consciousness, acts for Krishna. and understands that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, can only be understood through the medium of a bona fide spiritual master. The plans of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are understood by His mercy. The plans of the devotees are as good as His plans. One should follow such plans and be victorious in their struggle for existence. Because of the situation, he goes on to say, because of the situation created by this universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna became bewildered in wonder. Thus, he began to offer his respectful obeisances at Krishna's feet again and again and again. With faltering voice, he began to pray, not as Krishna's friend, but as a devotee, in wonder, filled with wonder. Arjuna is overwhelmed. He offers prayers and obeisances. O Krishna, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name. The world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offer you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid of you and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done by your will. O refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source. You are the cause of all causes. And you are transcendental to this material manifestation. You are the original personality of Godhead. You are the only sanctuary of this manifest cosmic world. You know everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are above the material modes of nature. O limitless form, this whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. Now it gets good, in my opinion, anyway. Arjuna cries out in ecstasy, I offer my obeisances from the front, from behind, from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all-pervading, and thus you are everything. Out of ignorance and familiarity, I have addressed you as, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, without knowing even half of your glory. Please forgive what I may have done out of madness or out of love. I have dishonored you so many times while relaxing or while lying on the same bed or eating together, sometimes alone, sometimes in front of many friends. I beg you, please, please excuse me for all these offenses. Now here we can see so clearly how overwhelmed Arjuna is. Now he's thinking, oh my God, I've called you my friend. I've eaten with you. I've played games with you. I've been so disrespectful of who you really are. You are the supreme Lord of Lords, to be worshipped by every living being, and thus do I fall down and offer my respects and ask for your causeless mercy. Please tolerate the wrongs that I may have done to you, and bear with me as a father bears with his son, or a friend does to his friend, or a lover with his beloved. Here Arjuna brings forward all these amazing relationships that we can have with God, that we can have with Krishna. Now we're thinking that Lord Chaitanya revealed this for the first time, but actually here it is, right here. Here it is. I want to be your friend. I want to be your You're as a father to his son. I want to be like your father. I want to be like your friend. I want to be your lover. I want you to be my beloved. All these relationships are here revealed in the Bhagavad Gita. It's amazing. But we don't, only when Lord Chaitanya comes and says, hey, look, this is what it's really all about. This is what it's really all about. Then we finally take notice. And the followers of Lord Chaitanya reveal more and more and more how intimate and how personal these relationships can be. But here, the hint, the basic revelation is right here. This is why I wanted to take some extra time with this universal form, because it's all here. Even though Bhaktivedanta Swami says the universal form itself is not that important. Nevertheless, by revealing this to Arjuna, Arjuna reveals some of the most intimate relationships that one can have with Krishna. Then, in answer to Arjuna's fearful prayers, Krishna first shows his four-armed form and then again returns to his two-armed form. Arjuna says, after seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, neither has anyone else, Krishna makes that clear, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear and anxiety. Therefore, I beg you, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal to me again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O abode of the universe. O universal Lord, he says, please, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. Bhaktivedanta Swami explains here that this universal form is a material form because it has a beginning and it has an end. Yes, he's death, and yes, he's birth, and yes, he's all these mouths are consuming this and that and doing all these things, but these are all within the cosmic manifestation of the material universe. So this universal form is not a spiritual form of Krishna. It is a form of a form of a form, and basically engaging in the organization and distribution of everything, the laws, and executing everything that the material universe is going on. Arjuna knew that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and he is assuming his temporary universal form. He is now asking to see the form of Narayan, which is a spiritual form, without beginning, without end. This verse establishes without a doubt the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all other features originate from him. He is non-different from his plenary expansions. He is God in any of his innumerable forms. The Blessed Lord said, my dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you this universal form within the material world. Note that he says that. By my internal potency. No one before you has ever seen this unlimited and glaringly effulgent form. Only you have seen this. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, while speaking in this way to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last he showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, Krishna says, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am. Standing here before you in my two-armed form. And thus I can be seen directly, only, again, by undivided devotional service. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Krishna can be understood only by the process of undivided devotional service. He explicitly explains this in this verse. So unauthorized commentators who try to understand, by the way, the word that he uses is bhakti, bhakta, bhaktana. He is very, very clear. It's the first word in that verse. Therefore, he explains in this verse, so unauthorized commentators who try to understand Bhagavad Gita by some speculative process will know that they are simply wasting their time. No one can understand Krishna or how he came from parents in a four-armed form and at once changed himself to his two-handed form. It is clearly stated here that no one can see him as he is. Krishna then states that his two-armed form can only be seen by his pure devotees, and such pure devotees working for Krishna, free from desiring fruitive activities, who make Krishna the supreme goal of their lives, certainly come to him. The personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed and four-handed form, Narayan, are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjuna. The four-handed form is Narayan and the two-handed form is Krishna. They are eternal and transcendental, whereas the universal form exhibited to Arjuna is temporary. This very word, Sudarcham, meaning difficult to see, suggests that no one has seen that universal form. It also suggests that among the devotees there was no necessity of showing it. That form was exhibited by Krishna at the request of Arjuna because in the future, when one represents himself as an incarnation of God, then people can ask him, okay, fine, you're an incarnation of God. Show me your universal form. A.C. Bhaktivedanta goes on to say, Krishna changes from the universal form to the four-handed form of Narayan, and then to his own natural form of two hands. He indicates that the four-handed forms and other forms mentioned in the Vedic literature are all emanations of the original two-handed Krishna, that he, Krishna, is the source and origin of all emanations. He says, my dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities, and free from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living being, that person certainly comes to me. It is said here, Bhaktivedanta Swami says, that the pure devotee has no enemy. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce this system, this Krishna consciousness, into human society, this bhakti yoga. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of Krishna or God consciousness. The favorite example, of course, is Lord Jesus Christ, who was crucified by non-devotees. But he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India, there are also many examples, such as that of Haridas Thakur. Why do they take such risk? Because they want to please Krishna. They want to spread Krishna consciousness. And it can be very, very difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due only to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In this way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. What more can one do than say, look, I'll relieve you from all the problems of material life, from birth, from death, from the pain of existence, from the pain of disease, old age, all these things. I can relieve you of these things. No, I may not make you rich. No, I may not, but I can relieve you of all the pain of material existence. What greater gift, what greater love can anyone have? And that's the last verse of chapter 11. I think that I'm not going to go on to chapter 12. We'll do that next time, and we'll see how it goes. So I hope you feel enthused. I hope you feel enlivened. I hope that this chapter has given you something to think about. And if you have any questions, please either chat them or open your microphone and ask me. I'll do the best I can to answer. Haribo. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Well, don't everybody speak at once. So, shall we go home? Shall we chant? No questions?
I have a question.
Alan, yes.
You said that if we cannot finish our, let me see, if a devotee cannot finish his task of going back to Godhead, you said he will go to heavenly planet. Does a devotee that goes to heavenly planet forgets Krishna?
Well, this seems to come up every time I give a class, and as much as I try to explain it, it doesn't seem like you guys are understanding it. I'm not sure why. But it's probably my fault. I probably haven't been clear. Bhaktivedanta says that they may take birth in the heavenly planets and do their karmic thing, live out their good karma, as it were. But then they will take birth in the family of devotees. Now, the thing is that what you have to understand is that taking birth in the family of devotees gives you the chance. you may receive the knowledge, you may receive the path, but if you make offense, if you are no longer interested in your spiritual path that you've made so much progress on, the thing is that what also is clear, you may fall down, is the finish of my sentence. You may fall down and into other activities. But let me also make clear that Krishna says there's no loss or diminution. Therefore, if you ever come back to the point where you want to understand who you are and what your relationship is with God, then you will start again from the point that you left off, from when you maybe passed on prematurely, as it were, without having realized your devotion, without having become a pure devotee. So yes, you can fall down. Yes, you can take a birth in the heavenly planets, or if you're really lucky, you might just go directly from one life to a life in the family of devotees. It wasn't clear from Bhaktivedanta Swami's description of what is the criteria. In other words, actually, probably someone like those of us who live here in the Philippines, being that we're not that materialistic by nature and by necessity, being that we live humbly and so forth, we would probably, if we died prematurely, probably have a really good chance of going directly to another devotee family. I think there have been, matter of fact, I think there have been many. I've witnessed many children that seem like they are definitely, like they were on the path before in their last life. I mean, it's just so obvious. Prabhupada, and I don't want to speculate too much on this, but if you're a Kshatriya, if you're used to being a king or having all kinds of power and opulence and everything, and you pass away prematurely before realizing your yoga, your relationship with God, then there may be a birth of that kind. The story of oh, Bala Krsna, help me. Who was the guy that took birth as a deer because he was put on your microphone for a second.
Bharat Maharaj.
Bharat, yeah, Bharat Maharaj was a king, and then he decided to give it all up and go to the forest and meditate. And here's the answer to your question right there. He wanted to engage in devotional service, but he got caught up in this drama of mother deer dying, the fawn drowning in the river, and he gets caught up in this whole drama, and he saves the fawn. He gives the fawn food. He watches the fawn grow, and the fawn and Bharat Maharaj, they have this loving relationship, and all of a sudden, the idea of his growing in his relationship with God takes a back seat to his growing relationship with this deer. And then all of a sudden, he was an old man. Suddenly it's time for him to die. And as he's dying, the deer comes over and nudges him with her nose and looks him in the eyes with his great big deer eyes, and And Bharat can't think of anything except the deer. And so what happens? He becomes a deer in his next life, right? But he had the benediction of remembering his last life. This is not something that happens with many animals. But even though he was a deer, he remembered that he was a king, and he got screwed up, and he forgot about Krishna, and so, he just did his deer thing as little as he could until he died as a deer, and then he took birth as Bharat. I don't remember what is it? Something
Jada
Bharat?
Bharat.
Jada
Jada
Bharat.
Bharat.
Thank you, Jada Bharat. And he didn't talk to anybody, and he walked around naked, and and peed in people's gardens or whatever, because it was all God's property, and just gave no thought to him. All he wanted to think about was Krishna. That's all he wanted. Didn't care about his body. Didn't care whether he ate, whether he drank. Nothing. He didn't want anything. He was determined that nothing this time was going to get in his way. He didn't want any relationships with anybody except Krishna. That's it. And and that's another adventure, and that's another story. But anyway, that is, many things can happen when someone passes away without completing their journey back to Krishna. Whether it's going to the heavenly planets first, or whether it's taking birth as a devotee in a devotee family, or whether it's taking birth as a deer, but there is no loss. Even though Bharat took birth as a deer, there was no loss, because he was still completely absorbed in wanting only to revive his lost relationship with God. Does that answer your question, Ellen? Okay, good. Okay. Any other question, please?
Namaste.
Namaste, Madhu. How are you?
Uh, Krishna can only be understood through the medium of the spiritual master. Can you expound on that?
Well, I can tell you from personal experience, as I've said before, the first time I read Bhagavad Gita, I was living on Maui, and basically trying to be Bharat Maharaj. Trying to be Jada Bharat, trying to sit in the deserts or the forests of Maui and live off of nothing, and try to sit in a shelter of some rocks or something and meditate. I didn't know how to meditate, but I read the Gita, and I thought, that's what I'm supposed to do. And when Siddhaswarup began chanting, because when I met Srila Prabhupada, when I met Siddhaswarup, he was teaching impersonalism, and everything that I was doing and what he was teaching was okay, good, we'll meditate, and we'll do this Raja Yoga, and try to find the Sushumna and the Prana and so on and so forth. And that was my understanding of the Gita, that's what it was all about, that you're supposed to do this eightfold path and yada, yada, yada. And then when Prabhupada began chanting, I was floored. I was completely taken by surprise, because I thought, I had read about these Hare Krishnas that came from San Francisco to open a center in Hawaii, and I laughed and I thought, geez, what a bunch of idiots. And then when Prabhupada began to, I took a friend of mine to Prabhupada's house in Haiku, figuring that, I would introduce her to Prabhupada and introduce her to meditation and everything. And so we sat out on the porch, had some prasadam, and Prabhupada started chanting, and I was like, what's going on? And I was floored. I was completely taken aback. Wasn't at all what I expected. And then as time went on, as Prabhupada would, instead of giving classes in Ramakrishna philosophy, he started giving classes in Bhagavad Gita, and I began to see Bhagavad Gita in a whole different light. And it amazes me now that I'm doing these classes on Bhagavad Gita, how screwed up I could have been. I mean, how can anybody read the Bhagavad Gita and think what I used to think? To me, it's ridiculous. But without the vision of my spiritual master, without the vision of a pure devotee to be able to show this to me, even though now I look at it and it's just so obvious, it hits you in the face, without him showing this open secret to me, I never would have understood. I was completely bewildered. And I can only say that without the mercy of my spiritual master, without the mercy of a pure devotee, I personally would never have thought that Krishna, when I read about the universal form, I thought, okay, now he's revealing his real self. That's what I thought. Now he's revealing his real self, to Arjuna. And I was so completely bass-ackwards. And, I don't know if any of you ever read the Gita before meeting Srila Prabhupada or anything like that, or what your leanings might have been. But you are fortunate to have met a pure devotee of the Lord. I cannot tell you how fortunate you are, because I wasted years of my life thinking that God was some kind of an impersonal Brahma Jyoti, light, and just I was so offensive. I hope that answers your question, Ambat Malu. But it is the pure devotee who will, if you get out of line, he will correct you, and if you follow his instructions, then you will also come to understand his teachings. You will also come to bring his teachings into your heart and understand the reality of them. Pure devotee is so very important in your spiritual development. There's no question about it. Without the mercy of a pure devotee, without the glance of the pure devotee, without his instruction, you can't really make any advancement. Is that clear? Is that all right? Haribo. Thank you, Amba. Any other question? William? You look like you have a question. I can't hear you, William.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Haribo. Yeah. If a person wants to be a devotee, is it essential to study the Vedas, or just in this age of Kali, which most of the people has a short memory? Is it important to study the Vedas or just chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra?
Well, there's two sides to that argument. Uh, Vyasadeva wrote the Vedas down so that people in this Kali Yuga could read them and understand them. Prior to that time, it was not written down. It was everybody. They you know, it was like Hawaiian or Polynesian society where you didn't write everything down. You just talked it, and everybody remembered it. But in today's society, if you are attracted to, I mean, like for example, Acharya Das, he loves, you know, to read scripture and to reveal it and revels in the most intimate scriptures of Vedic literature, from Bhagavatam to the writings of the Goswamis and so on and so forth. And I too, I love to do that. However, Lord Chaitanya made it very clear that even a person who can't read can become a pure devotee. They simply need to chant the holy names of God. I mean, even here in Bhagavad Gita, when in the universal form, he says, Arjuna says, the world becomes joyful hearing your name. The name of God is just, it is the basis, it is the crux, it is the end all and be all of all spiritual enlightenment. The name of God is it. There is nothing more important. You can read all you want, you can make all the offerings you want, yada yada yada, and all of those things are wonderful. They are all part of the 9, you know, aspects of bhakti yoga, sadhana bhakti. But the name of God is the foundation. So if you can't read, if you don't, if you had your arms and legs amputated so you can't make an offering, if you can just chant the names of God, you can go back to Godhead. There is, I mean, there's no limit. If you can chant, if you can glorify God, then your path to Him is open. Does that answer your question, William?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Namaste. Don't forget to turn your microphone off, unless you have another question.
Another question is, uh, for those who want to be more advanced or to motivate this our line of faith, is it important to know the great personalities in Vaishnavism?
I'm not
I
sure what
mean,
you mean. I'm not sure what you mean.
especially we always give image to Lord Chaitanya and those personalities that are there, uh, which I personally uh, I do not know them well. Uh, is it important to know them
I'm
so
sorry. I'm sorry. You're breaking
we
up.
can
Wait,
have
William.
a inspiring?
William, you're breaking up. Is it important to know who? I didn't get that.
Yes, the personalities in our prayers, like Shivas, uh, Gadadhar, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda,
Do
Shri
you have
Advaita, Gadadhar,
do you
those
have the do you have
those
the te-
personalities,
do you have the teachings of Lord Chaitanya? Do
the
you have that book?
book, uh, yes, but I don't have much time to read.
Make the time.
Those personalities are in there.
Yes, it explains exactly who these people are and what their relationship is with Krishna and what their relationship is with Lord Chaitanya, um, Srivas, and all these people. And you should also read the Nectar of Devotion. These are further expanded in the Nectar of Devotion. Now, again, you're asking, is it important? You know, what you can do is important. What you cannot do is not important. If you are able to find out a little bit about them, then you can, in your conversations with others, you can enlighten them. Oh, this person was like this, and this person had this amazing relationship with Lord Chaitanya. It can help in your preaching activity, in your, you know, outreach. Uh, it isn't terribly important for your own advancement that you know who Srinivas was or that you know who Haridas Thakur was, but by knowing these personalities, knowing about their lives, knowing stories about what they did, they will enliven you. They will encourage you. They will give you more enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is what you need. Arjuna couldn't do a thing while he was sitting there on the chariot with his head in his hands, not wanting to do anything. But once he was enlivened, once he was motivated, that's what you need. And that's what learning about these various personalities will do. They will motivate you to become like them. They will give you an example of what it is to be a devotee. What is the life of a devotee like? How can I follow in their footsteps? Not copy them, but how can I follow in their footsteps? What can I do that would be like them? And, you're asking, is it necessary? No, it's not necessary, but it is very helpful. It is very helpful. I mean, why make the road any more difficult than it already is? Do whatever you can. Grab whatever, whatever hand reaches out to you, to lift you up from this material ocean of birth and death. And these knowing some of these devotees of Lord Chaitanya, knowing the gopis, knowing the loving relationships of these various devotees, knowing the story of Madhavacharya, knowing the story of the Parampara. What were the lives of our Parampara like? This is wonderful and enlightening stuff, information. It doesn't, the thing is that you have time to listen to a Bhagavad Gita class, but you don't have time to read? I don't think so. I think you could find time to read if you wanted. So make that time. You don't have to read, a whole book in a night. You can read a couple of pages or maybe a chapter if you can. But, please get the teachings of Lord Chaitanya if you don't have it. Get the Nectar of Devotion. Those are good places to start. Those are good places to start. So, does that help? William? Did you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? William? I don't think he can hear me. Maybe he didn't get any of that. Did you get it, Bala? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Everybody can hear me except William, I guess. Well, that's sad. Okay. Well, anybody else have a question?
There's a problem on my.
Who's that?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome, William. Good. You heard
Yeah.
okay? I wasn't getting anything from you. Okay, I'm glad. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Namaste. Any other question?
Harbo, namaste.
Who's that? John or Don? Yes, I've been hoping for a question from you.
Um, is there such thing as soulmates? Like two people, lifetime after lifetime, they're connected to each other, and then finally they came to the chanting, and then they went to the spiritual world, and then they're still connected somehow.
Hate to disappoint you, but not in the usual sense. No. You have an eternal relationship with Krishna. You may have an eternal relationship with one of the Bhaktas of Vrindavan. You may have an eternal relationship with Radharani. But the likelihood of one of the gopis or one of the gopas meeting you on this plane and then going with you to the spiritual sky is very unlikely. The usual idea of soulmates that you meet, you meet a girl and it's like, oh, you were lovers in your that does exist. Yes, it does. There are many, many stories in the Vedas about people who meet and they fall in love and then, then they live their whole lives devoted to each other. And then in their next life, the man takes birth as a woman and the woman takes birth as a man, and they fall in love again, and they do this, but these are temporary bodily relationships. They have nothing to do with our relationship with God. They're very nice romantic stories, but when you look at them from a Vedic point of view, they're a waste of time and a waste of your energy, because you want, like Jada Bharat, you want to focus one-pointed on Krishna. Don't worry about. I mean, I've actually had people come up to me and say, "You're my soulmate," and it's it's very flattering and it's very like but it's their illusion, it's their dream, it's their whatever. It has nothing to do with you and the reality of your relationship with Krishna. It's just another distraction. It's Maya. Basically, it's just Maya saying, "Hey, look, I'm your soulmate. Come, be with me. We can be together for lifetime after lifetime." It's very romantic, but it's not very practical. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry to be, kind of a downer on that, but does that answer your question, John or Don?
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify. For example, a husband and wife goes back again to the spiritual world, like for instance, like Yogeshwar Das and
John or Don, they are individuals. They are individuals. The point of a marriage is for the husband to help the wife to advance in her relationship with Krishna. The point is for the wife to help the husband advance in his relationship to Krishna, not with each other. This romantic idea of, oh, we'll be devotees and we'll be, together again in the spiritual sky, maybe or maybe not. There's no guarantee. It's just like, but the thing is that your focus needs to be on serving Krishna, not on serving your wife, not on serving your husband, not on, it's like, again, it comes back to Jada Bharat and the deer. Why couldn't they have had a wonderful transcendental relationship as a devotee and a deer in Vrindavan? Because our relationship is with Krishna. That is the focus of bhakti. That is the focus of understanding our relationship with Krishna. That is the point. It is not to understand better our relationship with our wife or our husband. You may as well, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you may as well be having a relationship with a worm or with a cat or a dog. You know, again, it's very, you know, kind of, and please don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be, you know, totally weird. And of course, you're not going to have a relationship like that with a worm. But the point is that you want to focus, each one of you as a couple, each one of you, the purpose of your life is to help the other focus on Krishna. This whole Christian idea of you're all going to go to heaven and you're all going to be together in heaven and you're all going to you know each other and you know your relationship is just going to go on and on, maybe, but that will not help your relationship with Krishna. It is not living in Svarg, which is the translation of heaven from Christianity, from the Bible, from the Greek. Living in the heavenly planets, again, is just another distraction. It's just more Maya. I apologize for being maybe a little harsh sounding, but that's the reality. The reality is that you know, if all that, you know, is true, then, you know, you're going to be together with your family for who knows how many lifetimes in the heavenly planets, and then, you know, but that is all part of the illusion. That's all part of Maya. Don't be fooled. Don't be distracted. The point of bhakti is to become one-pointed on Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. And if you have a wife, if you have children, help them to do the same. That is so pleasing to the spiritual master. You don't want to get, I don't know what, we tend to have these romantic ideas of, you know, somehow having an eternal relationship with some buddy, some temporary living entity. But it's interesting that what you're really relating to is Krishna in the heart. Krishna is all there is. And the sooner we discover our relationship, we are like little Krishnas. And you are like a little Krishna. And your wife is like a little Krishna. And when you realize that your relationship is really with Krishna and not with this temporary male or female or this temporary body of whatever it might be, then, and that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are like a little teeny Krishna, but you are not Krishna in the whole. But when we relate to somebody, the reality of our relationship is that we are trying to relate with Krishna in the heart. And we get distracted by bodies. So our real relationship, our eternal relationship, is with Krishna. And it's that everything in the spiritual sky is differentiated, and yet everything in the spiritual sky is engaged in Krishna's service. Whether it's the wind or the flowers, the trees, the leaves, the gopis, the gopas, the deer, the cows, they all are relating to Krishna. That is the cynosure, the center of their life. That is the everything of their life. Krishna just said in this chapter, I am everything. I am the beginning. I am the end. I am everything. So does that mean you are everything? No. It means you are part, an eternal part of that everything. And that if you can relate directly to the supreme whole, so much the better. Then your real meaning of your life becomes clear. Does that help, John or Dandas?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, namaste, Haribo. Anyone else?
Haribol,
Yes, William.
Haribol,
Yes.
Haribol. Um, Before we came into this material platform, are we all came from a spiritual world?
There are two words. There are two schools of thought on that. Some say that we have never been to Vrindavan, to Krishna Loka, and some say that that's where we all started. I don't honestly know. Pure devotees have spoken both ways, and I think it's really a matter of how you look at it. But we are eternal living sparks of God. We have eternal relationship with God. And according to Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. So, by extension, if you forget something, that means you once had it. So somehow or other, even though we have an eternal relationship with Krishna, we have forgotten that relationship. And eternal means never ending, never beginning, never ending. So we are eternal sparks, eternal parts and parcels, eternal bits of Krishna, complete in and of ourselves. We are like, again, like I said, like little Krishnas, little bitty, itsy bitsy Krishnas. We don't have the whole thing, but we have the whole little thing. We are eternal. We are full of love, full of bliss, full of eternal knowledge. Eternity, knowledge, bliss. We are vigraha. We are the form of that eternal knowledge and bliss. And so we cannot have forgotten our relationship with Krishna unless we once had one. So I think the answer to your question is yes, we came from spirit and we are trying to get back to spirit.
Follow up the question, sir. If we came from Krishna Loka, that means we are serving him. How come we are forgetful of serving him if we came from him? Didn't we enjoying our service to him?
I think Bhaktivedanta Swami would have said, you don't need to know. Who cares? The point is, you've somehow or other, and even in the Shikshastak prayers, somehow or other, I have fallen into this material world. What is the point of examining or trying to examine something you know nothing about? What is the point of trying to examine a relationship that you have completely forgotten? Revive that relationship and then the answer will be clear. Don't worry about where you were Worry about where you are. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't worry about where it was you somehow fell off the train or whatever. You know, you got to get that. You got to find the train to get back on it and figure out where you are. Don't worry about where you were. Who knows how many lifetimes ago you left Krishna Loka? And again, who knows what your eternal relationship with Krishna is? When you discover that, that question will be moot. It'll be useless, which it really is even now. It's you don't need to know that. What you need to do is rediscover your relationship with Krishna, not try to figure out, gosh, how did I get here? What did I do? How long is it? You know, it really doesn't matter. What matters is advancing on your relationship, on your knowledge and your relationship with Krishna now, in this life. Now that you're here, make the best of it. Don't worry about where you were. You know? Again, it's like, I can't help but feel that, you know, the example is so clear here in the material world. You see somebody, you see somebody that's rich and famous, and you think, God, why does he get all the adulation? Why does he get all the fame? Why can't that should be mine? And once you start thinking that way, you're gone. You're out of it. And who knows how many bazillion lifetimes ago you started thinking that way. And who cares, really? I mean, you have come to the point where you have an opportunity to revive your lost relationship with the most important person in existence. Take it. Use it. Do it. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, soul.
Just want to satisfy my curiosity.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't mean to be, you know, I don't mean to say that, you know, you shouldn't ask questions. I want you all to ask questions. And forgive me if I, you know, seem to bite your finger off. I don't mean to bite your finger off. I just want to because the clarity, you know, if the clarity is not in your mind, there's no such thing as a stupid question. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Okay? If you don't know the answer, it's not a stupid question. So, you know, maybe I'm you know, maybe I'm saying, well, you don't have to think about that, or why did you ask me that, or this or that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you clarity on where your focus should be. And in that way, I'm trying to answer your question in that kind of way. So please forgive me. I'm an asshole. And I've been that way for I don't know how many lifetimes.
No, sir. No, sir. You mean a lot to us.
Haribo. You guys all mean a lot to me too, believe me. I forgot to invite anybody. There's a lot of people that are often here. Daryl isn't here, and you know, quite a few others that are often here. I didn't forget. I was just so busy today. I couldn't put out all the invitations that I usually do. But anyway, thank you all for coming. Very much appreciated. Any other question? No chat questions this time. Interesting. May, Pinky, James, Marilyn, Emily? No? Vishnudas?
Sir,
William, I can always count on
could you
you.
tell us more about spiritual advancement?
I don't know what you mean.
What really is spiritual advancement in our line of faith?
spiritual advancement in sadhana bhakti
Yeah.
means that you become more and more attracted to doing your service. You become more and more attracted to hearing the Hare Krishna mantra. You become more and more attracted to making offerings or doing something, doing outreach, something that you know will please your spiritual master. You become more and more attracted to reading about Krishna. I've said many times that just as the material world is based on material desire, the desire of the senses, the desire of the mind, the desire of so many, name, fame, so many things. Spiritual advancement is also based on desire. How will you make advancement if you don't desire that advancement? How will you make advancement if you have no... Lord Chaitanya says very clearly, your holy name alone can render all benediction upon the living being, but unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction. And this is the way we all start out. We all start out having no attraction. The idea of repeating the names of God over and over again is sometimes it's a burden. Sometimes oh gosh, I've got to get up and do that. I've got to get up and do artik. I've got to get up and make an offering. I've got to get up and do a Bhagavad Gita class. I've got to get up and read. I've got to get up and read, William, my scripture. At first it seems like a burden, but if you continue to do it and you do it more and more with the right attitude that I want to please you, and if you don't have the right attitude, if you don't see or feel or experience that your love is growing, that your attraction to Krishna's name is growing, then A, you're probably doing something wrong. B, you may even be committing some offense. And C, the only way out of it is to pray. Why am I not attracted to you, my Lord? Why do I have no attraction to your holy name? Please, there are some wonderful prayers. Nityananda, Lord Nityananda asks, please give me just one drop of love for you so that when I'm chanting your holy name, I can feel some love for you instead of just feeling like an empty stone. I often feel like an empty stone. I can just tell you from my own personal experience. And yet, sometimes when I read or when I read, especially prayers of devotees, when you read the prayers of great devotees, gosh, it just awakens so many wonderful feelings, so many wonderful, suddenly you become attracted to the holy name again. You revive your desire to serve Krishna. You can read these prayers and really begin to feel some desire, some love, or at least something close to it. So, you want to, making advancement is as much involved with knowing where you're not as it is with understanding where you are. If you are not spontaneously attracted to chanting, if you're not spontaneously attracted to service, if you're not spontaneously attracted to bhakti, to engaging in sadhana bhakti. If sadhana bhakti is a chore, then you know you've got to work harder. And working harder doesn't mean just doing more. It means purifying your mind. It means chanting more. It means begging Krishna, begging the spiritual master, please change my heart. Please change my heart. I have no attraction for you. I have no qualification for even chanting your name. I am a complete waste of living entityship. Just please help me to be sincere. You cannot manufacture sincerity. If you're not attracted, then you cannot be making real progress, because the real progress means that there's attraction is growing. Maybe you're not attracted all the time, but at least there's some attraction and it's growing. That's what you need to look for. And if it isn't, then you need to be cautious and prayerful, and realize that it's not something that you can do by yourself. Bhakti, sadhana bhakti is part of the realization of sadhana bhakti is that you can't do it all by yourself. When we first start off, we think, oh gosh, all I got to do is chant. I'll chant, 16 rounds. I'll chant 10 rounds. I'll, chant Hare Krishna. It's great to be in a Kirtan. You're just like all hyped up and it's going faster and faster and you're all into it and everything. And then one day you realize that, gosh, I really don't want to chant. I really have no desire. I really have no attraction. You can't manufacture that attraction. You can't manufacture sincerity. It is a gift from the spiritual master. It is a gift from Krishna. Okay, Sal Custodio says, if one is reviving their personal relationship with God and the mind is so flickering, what can be done to focus yourself, and it ends there, focus yourself on God? Well, I think I just finished talking about that. Turn your microphone off, William, for the time being. William, mute your microphone for the time being. Thank you. What can you do? You can pray. You can ask. You can beg. How can I focus my mind more upon you? How can I become more sincere? Again, those of you, you are all, you all have family members that chant. You all have family members that are bhaktas. You are so fortunate. Well, with the exception of Ellen, you have family members that are, but at least now your husband's coming around, and that's kind of cool. But, I'm in a situation where I have no family members that chant. I'm all by myself. And so, I relish your association. I relish the opportunity to be with you guys and to chant with you and to talk with you. And, I do my little dupe artik and my once a day offering, my deity worship, such as it is, and my wife tells me, I can't sleep with that bell going on all the time, can you, and that incense is so strong, you're gonna make everybody here cough, or whatever, so you don't have that to deal with. Your family loves your incense. They love the sound of the bells and the artik and everything. So count yourselves lucky. Just thank Krishna for his amazing mercy that you're able to engage in devotional service without somebody, coming down on you for it. And again, reviving your personal relationship, if it's so flickering, and it is in all of us, it flickers. Again, it's like that fan that goes slower and slower and slower once you unplug it. Okay? So chant, Sal. Chant, chant, chant. Offer your food, offer your life. Get up in the morning. Offer your obeisances to your spiritual master and offer him your life. Offer him this day. Offer him your thoughts, your prayers, your activities, your food, everything that you think, everything that you do. Make it an offering to him. Focus your mind on your relationship with Krishna. Ananda Dasi, nice to hear from you. Namaste, thank you very much. Could I request that you please don't go far from your mic? Okay, that's good. Let me know if if it's getting too soft, because if you are away from your mic, we can hardly hear you. The sound is fading. I didn't realize that, so thank you for telling me that. I hope this is not too much for me to ask. Well, no, I don't think that's too much for me to ask, Ananda Dasi. Thank you very much. I'll try to be a little louder. I'll try not to move away from the microphone in the future. Okay? Haribol. Haribol, thank you very much for that note. I move around in my chair a little bit, so, if it's, if it becomes difficult, I don't know exactly where the sweet spot is for the microphone. So, I appreciate you telling me that. I appreciate it very much. I'll try to be a little less movable. Okay? Any other question? Nope, that's it. Shall we chant?
So thank you very much, Siddheshvar. So I'd like to pass on the mic to friends here in Singapore, Pinky and Raymond Eduardo.
Please accept my humble obeisances. Haribol.
Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, sir. Set. Go. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Kesaya Bhutale, Srimati Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa iti namine. Bhaktivedanta Shiva Seneko Master Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Gita Shastra Jaya, Gaur Bhaktivedanta.
Thank you very much, Siddheshvar, Bhaktivedanta, to everyone. Haribo. Thank you, Raymond and Pinky and family. To everyone, Siddheshvar Das, thank you for coming. Haribo.
Haribo.
See you later again.
Haribo, thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Haribo.
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 Hopefully, we'll see you all on Sunday.
Haribo.
Yes, you. Haribo.
Haribo.
See you on Sunday. Haribo.
Haribo.
Thank you very much. Haribo. Namaste.
Thank you, Ananda Dasi. Haribo.
Haribo, Haribo. Thank you.